Any clarifications? Mr. Liang Eng-hua?
So I understand that the Minister Chan has just returned from Siem Reap, Cambodia, after attending the RCEP ministerial meeting. So probably it's timely to ask him on the latest progress on the RCEP negotiation. We have a few elections in the region from the member states, whether that are there enough political will to overcome the specific sensitive issues, and then whether do we have reasons to be optimistic that the agreement will be concluded this year.
Mr. Chair, let me thank Mr. Liang Eng-hua for your question. Yes, indeed, I just came back from Cambodia to make sure that my MTI budget is approved today. At Cambodia over the weekend, the minister had a good discussion on the RCEP. I think what I sense from my ministerial colleagues, the RCEP ministerial colleagues, is that all of them have reaffirmed their determination to try their best to conclude the RCEP this year. And I think more so than last year, they understand the strategic significance of the RCEP and also the criticality of the timing of the RCEP. In a world whereby we see the rise of protectionism, unilateral moves by various countries, trade protectionism and so forth, I think many in Southeast Asia, in the rest of Asia, see the urgency to try to conclude this. Not just for the economic benefits alone, but also because of the positive message we want to send to the rest of the world of how we collectively believe in greater integration for the greater good of our people. Over the weekend, the ministers have agreed on a work plan, a 2019 work plan, which will include intermediate targets to be achieved each month for us to make sure that we get to the finishing line by the end of this year. So under Thailand's ASEAN chairmanship, we see this as a very positive development. However, as Mr. Liang Eng-hua said, there are a few uncertainties. Particularly, there are 4 regional elections: India, Indonesia, Thailand, and Australia. So from now till the end of May, these 4 countries will be very involved in their domestic elections. So what the ministers have directed the negotiators to focus on is to make sure that we clear as much of the technical issues as possible from now till June. And the next critical milestone for the ministerial meeting will be in August this year in China. This will be a critical milestone because this will be a point whereby we will make the political decision and show the political commitment that all the 16 countries want to get it done this year. So the first part of the year, we will see the front-loading of the technical aspects of the work. The third quarter of this year, we hope to see a resolution on the political direction after the completion of the 4 regional elections. So in the meantime, the respective working groups are working hard to close off the remaining chapters and the technical issues.
Mr. Pritam Singh?
Just following up with the clarification from SPS Tan Wu Meng on electricity retailers. I understand in the event of an exiting from the market in the household sector, the retailer would be required, from SPS's answer, the retailer would be required to provide electricity or find a retailer who would provide electricity at the same price. In the event that fails, I don't believe SPS Tan has clarified what compensation alternatives would be available to residents, given that they would be back on the standard SP tariff rate. Just in case I missed that, just a query.
So I thank Mr. Pritam Singh for his clarification. From the viewpoint of a household consumer, one of the key objectives in the open electricity market is that in the event a retailer exits, that household continues to receive electricity. The power is not disconnected. So as a first instance, if a retailer is exiting, they are expected to try and find an alternative supplier for that household with equivalent terms, or failing which, if the alternative cannot be found, the household reverts to SP Group as the provider of last resort in such a situation. Now, Mr. Pritam Singh also raised a separate question, which is there a concept of expectation loss here? Now, it's worth bearing in mind that in the current operating environment, where households may have obtained discounted rates from an electricity supplier, and subsequently, if the supplier exits and they revert to SP Group, they've obtained savings at that point. So I'm just wondering what Mr. Pritam Singh means by seeking compensation.
Mr. Pritam Singh.
Thank you. SPS Tan, if I can put it in a different way, right now, let's say the shoe is on the other foot and the consumer decides to move on to another retailer because the rates are more favorable than the existing rates that that consumer has bargained for. What would happen is they would have to pay a termination fee. And I'm just wondering whether there is a similar mechanism if it was the other way around. That's essentially the essence of my question.
So there's actually two distinct scenarios in that one question which Mr. Pritam Singh has raised. One scenario is if the retailer is still in the market and the consumer decides to initiate termination of the contract and to move to another retailer because of a better deal. In that situation, if the consumer is the one initiating the termination and moving to a different supplier, then those terms and conditions, whether there's an early termination fee, would apply. But in the event of the other situation, where a retailer chooses to exit the market, firstly, as I mentioned earlier, the retailer has to source around to see if another retailer will offer an equivalent plan to their existing consumers. In that situation, even then, the consumer can decide he doesn't like this alternative because there's another better alternative available on the market. When the existing retailer exits, the consumer still has that choice. So, so it depends on which situation Mr. Pritam Singh is looking at for the purposes of his question.
Mr. Loh Teck Kiang.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I have two clarifications for the Minister. First, whether the ongoing issue with Malaysia, namely the airspace and the port issue, it remains unsolved, would affect Singapore economy. Second clarification, whether he sees the defense industry having the potential to contribute to Singapore economy.
Mr. Chair, let me thank Mr. Loh for your two clarifications. Let me take the second one first. The answer, whether we see defense industry is able to contribute to our overall economy, the answer is definitely yes. In fact, if we look at ST Engineering today, I think I don't have the exact numbers, but if I'm not wrong, almost half of their business comes from the non-defense sector itself. So there's obviously some cross-pollination of ideas and benefits in growing the ST Engineering companies. And there are examples that just now my colleagues have given. So the answer is definitely yes. The defense industries, either directly or indirectly through the use of the related technologies, can benefit the wider economy. On Mr. Lowe's first questions about the impact of the issues with Malaysia's on the Singapore economy, there are two levels that I think we must always bear in mind. First is that Malaysia is part of the wider ASEAN economy, and obviously any uncertainties in the Malaysia's economy will affect Singapore just as it will affect the regional country. Our position is that we continue to look for win-win situations and win-win projects together with Malaysia, because we always believe that a prosperous Malaysia that is doing well economically is good for Malaysia, is good for the region, and we will continue on this mode, this kind of mental model that we are seeking for win-win cooperation. Now, having said that, of course, any disruption to the Malaysian economy can have and will have a significant impact on the Singapore's economy, which is why over the last few months, MTI have always encouraged our companies to seriously consider the impact of the Malaysian's political and economic trajectory. We ask and encourage our companies to diversify their sources, their supply chains, and their markets, so that this is part of our wider strategy to make sure that we will never be held ransom by dependence on one particular market for our supply chains or for the market for the products of our products and services. So this we must continue to do, regardless whether it's Malaysia or any one particular market. But you are right, Malaysia is our next door neighbor, our closest neighbor, and because they are the closest neighbor, all the more we must make sure that we continue to diversify and take this issue very seriously, that our economy is never held ransom or dependent on a single source.
Mr. Lim Beltran.
Thank you, Speaker. Just wanted to ask the SPS. We already have a mandatory cooling off period for purchase of timeshare contracts. And there's also what they call a free look period for life and health insurance products. Can SPS give a compelling reason why MTI is not prepared to consider a cooling off period for contracts with businesses in the beauty and slimming industry?
All right, thank Mr. Lim for his clarification. Certain considerations apply. The first of these is whether the extent of commitment by the individual consumer is very substantial, and whether there have been legitimate opportunities for the consumer to decline entering into a contract at that point in time. I hear what he says about how someone going for a massage maybe find themselves under the wrong kind of pressure. But we also have to bear in mind that if a consumer feels they have been wrongfully confined, if someone is trying to extract certain decisions or concessions while they're in a vulnerable position, a consumer can and should consider asking for the authorities to be alerted. If someone locks you in a room and asks you to sign a contract, I think Mr. Lim, being a lawyer, he also knows what the options are available, and you don't necessarily need to call in a lawyer for that. So that's one part of it. But more broadly, there's also, I would say, there's also the need for us throughout society to continue sending a message, not just looking at legislative measures, but also as a community of consumers and concerned citizens about what kind of sales tactics are acceptable, unacceptable, or completely past the pale in our society.
We have some massage chairs in the members' room, no strings attached. Any other further clarifications? If not, Mr. Liang Eng-Hua, would you like to withdraw your amendment, please?
Well, so if I may say something about Mr. Teo Ser Luck. I'm very happy that he filed so many cuts this time for the MTI. He used to be helping and supporting entrepreneurs and startups when he was MTI, and now he is himself entrepreneur and startup. So indication of our very vibrant and startup and ecosystem entrepreneur scene. Growing and transforming our economy is so very important for Singapore, so crucial, and we can only now wish the MTI and the Economic Agency every success. So with that, I beg leave to withdraw the amendments.
Is the honourable member given leave to withdraw the amendment? I think leave of the majority is given. The amendment is withdrawn. The question is that the sum of $1,032,517,000 for head V stand part of the main estimates. As many as are of that opinion say aye. To the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is that the sum of $4,755,830,400 for head V stand part of the development estimates. As many as are of that opinion say aye. To the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.